Good afternoon. I'm Director Tom Hackney, Director of Investigations and Security, Homeland Security with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. I have a pretty interesting case here we need to go over with you. This morning at around 7:45, one of the employees from the Ace Check Cashing on 929 South McDuff here behind me was getting ready for work and exited her apartment, which is over on Argyle Forest Boulevard. As she was exiting her apartment to go get in her car, three black male suspects approached her at gunpoint and forced her back inside of her apartment. Told her that they were going to come rob the business. They were going to bring her back to the business here, rob the business, and leave one suspect at home with their 3-year-old child. They did just that. These suspects made threats to the victim to kill her and her child. She didn't comply. They got back in her car, and suspects got into one car behind her. We're pretty sure now there was at least 2 suspects, and we're looking into the possibility that there were 3 suspects in this case. In any case, her 3-year-old child was left inside of her apartment with at least one suspect. How long that duration was, we're not sure. But the suspects and the victims got back up here to the Ace Check Cashing, forced her inside the business, duct taped her inside the business, commenced to rob the business of an undetermined amount of cash that we have now. The suspects were last seen leaving the business on foot. One of them left in a car that followed the victim here. The victim called police. Police went back to her apartment and found her 3-year-old child had been duct taped inside the apartment, but was okay. Just for precautionary measures, her 3-year-old child was transported from the apartments to a local hospital. She checked out fine. We are still looking into this. This is a pretty unusual type of case that this has occurred. We haven't had anything like this occur in Jacksonville in quite some time. Suspects who would do this would have to do some pretty severe planning to put this together and pull it off like they did. Luckily, nobody was hurt in this case. Threats and scared to death, I'm sure both she and her 3-year-old child were. Luckily that nobody was hurt at the end of this. We're looking right now into what connections this may have. Like I said, somebody who did this would have to put it together pretty timely. Looking to see if there's some kind of gang connection to this, which we don't know. But these are standard things that we're going to look at. Violence of this nature and pre-planning of this nature. It leads detectives down several paths and several roads, which we will certainly look at. As I was preparing to come talk to y'all, we had another bank robbery in the Mandarin area. The TD Bank was robbed by a single black male, and that occurred at 6050 St. Augustine Road just a few moments ago. So, you have two robberies of financial institutions on a Saturday morning. We will look at both of those to see if there's any relationship to that. That was a single black male, and this is obviously more than just a single black male. But again, to try to determine what those relationships are, we will do. Take any questions?
Is the woman whose child was kept in the apartment, is she a suspect in this at all?
No, Daniel, she doesn't appear to be related to this at all. She's been an employee here at Ace Check Cashing for 2 years, has been an upstanding employee. We look at every aspect of these kind of cases that go on to make sure that there's no inside jobs or inside involvement. It doesn't appear, at least on the surface, that that's the case in this, but it's certainly something that when we look at the big picture, that's things that we do look at and consider.
You say there may be 2 or 3 suspects. Why did somebody not?
There was some confusion about whether the suspect stayed at the victim's apartment the entire time that this occurred, or that they may have left shortly thereafter and come to involve themselves here. When the police officers got to the victim's apartment, the child was in the apartment alone. Obviously no suspects there. A brief questioning of that child said, well, the man stayed here for a little bit, then he left. So, you're talking to a 3-year-old witness and trying to figure out what's going on. So, at least 2, possibly 3 suspects could be involved.
So early on, there were 2 who attacked her or who went into the apartment.
Correct. There's two. Not sure.
Don't know if they were joined by a 3rd person.
Again, kind of early on in the investigation to do that. I can say for sure there's 2. Could be that potential of a 3rd suspect involved, but as things progress, we'll know more about that.
It was a female child?
It's a female child, 3-year-old female child.
How old is the mother? Or who was the
I'm
mother?
not sure. I can get that through the PIO.
Okay.
Where was the apartment at?
It's at Lindsay Terrace Apartments, which is on Argyle Forest Boulevard here on Jacksonville's west side.
How do they know she worked here?
They told her during the robbery that they had been watching her for some time in planning this. Said that they knew where she lived, knew where she worked, and had put some thought and planning into this. Again, that's why I I don't suspect gang relationships, but you know, you look at every possibility when you have something as developed as this plan was, just to make sure that that every stone gets turned over.
That white car in there, how is that? Is that related?
The white car is the victim's car. One of the suspects was in the car with her when she drove from the apartment over here. There was another car that followed them. Don't have a real good description on anybody. They were black males. Don't have a good description on their car. Don't
Ages.
have any ages either. So as that kind of progresses, the victim in this case is talking to detectives now. As we get more information, I certainly will place that out through the PIO. Anybody who has any information about this, you know, to plan something like this, you may have talked about it ahead of time. And if you know anything, we certainly encourage you to come forward. You can remain anonymous and receive a reward. You can call Crime Stoppers at 1-866-845-TIPS. We would encourage that. That little piece of information that you may have, that little thing you may have overheard, could be what breaks this case loose. We certainly would appreciate somebody coming forward with that.
How much money was taken?
We typically don't release what dollar amounts are. We're still looking into that, but you know, for the safety of financial institutions.
Was it in the thousands? Can you say that?
It was a fairly large amount.
Did they leave on foot or in the car?
They left both on foot and in the car. The car that followed her over here was gone, and the suspect that was inside there with her in the car left on foot. So
How long were they in the store?
around 30 minutes.
They were inside around 30
the store
minutes.
about 30 minutes.
There are other
That's
employees inside when
No, she was here alone. She was scheduled to be here alone all day, and that's
Okay.
she
So
was
she was open, and she was going to open and close.
She was planning when she left at 7:45 this morning. It was to come to work here to open the business.
Where was her child going to go while she was at work?
I don't know.
You
She probably had some child care, but I
You don't know.
can't.
there is surveillance video inside.
Certainly something we're going to look at. Not sure what surveillance is there. There's a Subway restaurant that's adjacent to it. Part of a standard routine is what we do. We will look for video evidence to help corroborate stories, help obtain suspect information, and put the thing together.
Any description of the suspect car?
No, we don't have any description of that. And again, as we talk more to the victim, get some of that put together, the PIO will release that and their descriptions out to the news media.
All right. So just to be clear, the woman was coming here at 7:45, and they spotted the woman outside of this location.
No,
or at
the woman left her apartment. When she got up for work this morning, she dressed to go to work, came out of her apartment. As she was exiting the door of her apartment, that's when the suspects approached her, forced their way back into the apartment at gunpoint, threatened to kill her, and told her that they were going to come here, rob the business, and they were going to leave her child there with one of the suspects.
Did she have the child with her when she exited the apartment, when she got into the apartment?
That's the indication that I got, that they were both
They're
going
both
to leave.
leaving the
Yes.
apartment.
Any other questions?
Is the victim, is she safe?
Victim's safe. She's unhurt. Obviously scared to death, as well as the 3-year-old was scared to death. Both of them were duct taped, traumatized fairly well.
How much duct tape, or where were they? The arms, mouth, what? Can you tell?
Little bit everywhere. Apparently, there was enough to keep the child down and keep her inside the business for a little bit.
Her hands, like to a chair?
Hands,
or-
chair, feet,
And
mouth.
She was
She
duct taped to a
duct taped. She was able to.
chair, and the child was duct taped to an object of any sort.
I don't know about what the child was duct taped to. I know that when the
She
patrol
was-
officers arrived, they found the child had been duct taped.
And she was in a
She
chair.
was inside
In a
the
chair.
business duct taped.
Who called 911 then if she was...
She was able to get her way out of the duct tape enough to reach the phone and make calls.
When did she after the suspects left?
I believe it was about 8:47 when we received the call.
So do we know if that was after the suspects left?
That was after the suspects left. And I'm not sure exactly what that time frame after they left to how long it took her to work her way out of the duct tape.
How unusual is this? I mean, this is a bizarre.
This is very bizarre. It's enough that it caused me to want to come out and look into it and see what's going on with it. We haven't had stories like this that involve kidnapping and children being left at home and almost being held while a crime is committed. So it's a pretty bizarre story, like you said, and pretty scary.
You haven't seen one like this before.
I've not seen one like this. Did a little research before I came to talk to y'all. It doesn't appear that this is obviously not connected to any other group of these, and we haven't had one in quite some time that is anywhere close to this.
Any other questions? All right.
Thank you all very much.